All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music and doing it in real time for a couple, two or three real people out there, just like you and just like me. So, what used to be the favorite topic on the channel isn't really the favorite topic anymore, but I am going to be talking about Journey. Some people are like, stop talking about Journey. Other people are like, hey, you're supposed to talk about Journey every day. And so I did yesterday. And Jonathan Cain is saying some interesting things about Steve Perry again. Again, I mean, look, this goes back and forth. You know, Perry doesn't say much about his old bandmates. His old bandmates, though, tend to talk a lot about Steve Perry. So it's interesting in that regard. I know some of you don't care for new material, but I keep plugging this. Been doing it now for over a year. This is Voyage and their album Inception. If you like Journey, just give this. Can you just give it a listen? That's all I'm asking. Give it a listen. Then, if you think it's stupid, just say, "Yeah, it's stupid. I don't like it." But I don't understand how you wouldn't like it. It sounds like a Journey album. It sounds like a Steve Perry solo album from like 1985. And I'm really serious about it. This band too, they're fantastic. If you go see them, they perform the music of Journey, and they do it about as good as anyone out there. I'm also a big fan of the band Resurrection. Um, my friend Brian Cole is in that band, and they do a fantastic job as well. But yeah, Journey tribute bands, there are many of them, but only a few of them are any good. So just putting it out there. All right, so Cain is putting it out there. He doesn't have contact with Steve Perry, and we've known this for a while. He says that's his loss, whatever. I don't live like that. He says, your decisions and your relationships are what you make them. If he chooses not to have one with myself or Neil, that's not my wish. So, Cain and Sean, now, Sean recently has kind of said, all right, I'm kind of done begging for Perry to reunite or to just talk. I think he's done. And I'm thinking, Jonathan Cain and Steve Perry, there's some issue, right? There's something, and I've said this in other videos, where Cain did something that really ticked off Steve Perry. And I think Cain knows what that is. And he doesn't address it. Or maybe he doesn't know what it is. And Perry, though, has to know what it is. What is it that makes Perry basically get very angry when Jonathan Cain's name is mentioned? I'm referencing the Rolling Stone interview from a few years ago where Andy Green sent me a message and said, yeah, he was visibly upset when I started talking about Jonathan Cain. I'm just like, why? They haven't had contact in years. You know, the easy thing to say here is if you go back in history, Jonathan Cain made the famous phone call to tell Perry that they were looking for other singers. This was after waiting like 2 years for Perry to pee or get off the pot. Sorry to use that analogy. Just popped in my head. Oop or get off the pot. So, yeah. And so maybe that could be the reason. Like Steve holds this grudge. I mean, Neil Sean wasn't going to call him. And I think Neil just put Cain up to it and said, you call him and tell him we're looking for other singers. You know, I don't want to tell him. You tell him, you know. And according to everyone in this situation, they were begging Perry, hey, come on back. Come on back. And then you've got the record label theory, which I think is a good theory. They fulfilled their record label obligations, and Perry at that point wanted nothing to do with these guys. There's deep rooted animosity there. But why? Why? Because they pushed him too hard. I don't know. That's the great question. And we won't know, unfortunately, until all these guys have moved on to the next world, right? I don't think we'll ever know. We may know. Someone could tell the story. And I think it would be Steve Perry who would tell his side of that story and tell you why he's ticked off at Jonathan Cain, why he's ticked off at Neil Sean. And I think that would be a made for TV movie or documentary. I know Journey's trying to do their own documentary, and they're trying to get Perry to sign off on it. And apparently that's not happening, hasn't happened yet. But Cain goes on to celebrate Arnell, and it's 16 years with Arnell Pineda. It's probably the longest tenure of any lead singer for the band. It is. And he says here he's been crushing it for us. He's got his kids on the road with him, and he seems really happy. And we're proud of everything he's done up to this point. And we have some years left. He says there's definitely still some gas in the tank. Some would debate that with Cain. I would debate him a little bit. I think Arnell is really good at the beginning of a tour, but as the tour goes on, it just, things aren't as good as they were at the beginning. And this has been a problem because Perry set such a high bar and then took off. Like, okay, let's see if you can sing like me. You won't be able to. I mean, Perry's not singing like his old self, but he's going to be remembered as the guy who sang better than any of these guys. And there's a reason for that. Number one, his voice is better. But number two, he recorded all of this music when he was full strength. Cain mentioned, though, that when Perry got there for Trial by Fire, he had lost a step. He wasn't the same Steve Perry that, had recorded everything up until that point, up until Raised on Radio. So again, it would be cool to know what is going on between these guys. Like, I often wonder about other bands too, like what kind of grudge goes this far? I mean, you guys could make a ton of money if you put out something together again. You can make a ton of money. And my theory, of course, is that Perry just doesn't want to have people hear him in his current state. That's my theory. And to come back with Journey, I just watched AC/DC, and it was a train wreck. All right, that train went right off the track, to quote one of their songs. And Journey is keeping their train on the track because they got Arnell. Some people would say, hey, maybe it's time for Arnell to not be there anymore. I don't know. It's good for everybody to stay together. And, I've talked to Dean Castronovo about this, and he's like, yeah, we're not budging on the singer. He's been great for us. He's a good guy. That's another factor here. He's kind of like the anti-Steve Perry for them, because Perry had all of this drama and turmoil and was a bit of a diva, whereas Arnell is a workhorse. He'll do whatever you tell him to do. And I think that's a big difference. I mean, look at Simon McBride now in Deep Purple. They are so happy with that guy. He plays solos like Richie Blackmore. Apparently they wanted that, right? But they had Steve Morse in the band for 28 years. Just, find the person that fits. I always say this with bands. You can keep going. Find someone who fits. The fans are very sympathetic. They will forgive you, and they forgive. Fans are too forgiving. Like, if you can't sing, I'm not going to go and pay money to go see you. That's me. Other people will, and they'll say, yeah, I had a great time. You must have drank a lot of $14 beer if you had that much of a great time, because then maybe everything just sounded great. I don't know. They always say your date will get better looking the more you drink. And apparently bands sound better after you've been blitzed, So, all right, here's, I'm just getting off the track here like Brian Johnson. Here is Voyage and their album Inception. Go check this out. Seriously, right? Just listen to it. Just give it a chance, all right? I mean, Hugo's not paying me for this. He should, but he's not, all right? It's just a fantastic album. And folks, I need people to sub to the channel. If you haven't subscribed, do it. Also, YouTube memberships. You can sign up to support the channel that way. Patreon, where I have conversations all day long with people. It's a 24-hour a day thing. So people say I don't have a real job. Yeah, I'm doing this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 300. If I take a break, people don't take breaks, right? But I take a break, go somewhere. I'm off of social media for a few hours and my phone is blowing up. So again, Patreon, YouTube memberships. And my favorite is buy me a coffee. You know why? Because I get coffee and I get nice messages. I got one yesterday from a gentleman who's like, hey, love your channel. Great job. Thanks for being there. And yeah, more coffee in the account. So I appreciate that. All right, folks. Thanks for watching. God bless. Stay away from the little elf protocol, okay? It didn't work for President Biden. Didn't work too well for him. I think he had 6. I think he had a total of 6 of them. And some people are starting to speculate that it's an interesting coincidence. Like he was pretty sharp when he hadn't had one of them. And then the more he had, the worse things got. And now, he might have to step aside altogether because if he can't run for president, how's he going to run the country? Just a little food for thought there. All right. I'm done. Promise. See you later.